In the last days will times be so evil that men will not be able to help themselves from also being evil. Hi, this is Barry Phillips with 10-Minute Torah. Day number 1, the Torah portion, Shemot. So we start a brand new book, at least for this Torah cycle, the book of Shemot. This word meaning names. Traditionally, it's called Exodus. The story of the Exodus, but this book is far more than just a recounting of the plagues and the dealings of Yahweh and Moshe and Pharaoh and all of that drama. This is the story of a people who have names, and that is Yah knows each one of them by name. And he's even counted the hair on their head. He understands who they are collectively as a nation, collectively as their tribes, and individually as the unique and individual person that each of them were. So we begin this book, even in the English translations, we find a capture of something that is very, very important, and it's a single letter in Hebrew, but in English, it's translated with the word and. So let's begin with Shemot, or Exodus chapter 1, verse 1. And these are the names, Shemot, these are the names of the children of Israel who came to Mitzrayim with Yaakov, each one with his household. Reuben, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, Issachar, Zebulun, Benjamin, Dan, and Naphtali, Gad, and Asher, and all those who were descendants of Yaakov were 70 beings, as Joseph was already in Mitzrayim. And it says, verse 6, and Joseph died, and all of his brothers, and all that generation. And the children of Israel bore fruit and increased very much and multiplied and became very strong, and the land was filled with them. Then a new sovereign arose over Mitzrayim who did not know Joseph. And he said to his people, see, the people of the children of Israel are more and stronger than we. Come, let us act wisely toward them, lest they increase. Let's pause there. So, this word and. In the Hebrew, it is a single letter. It is the letter Vav. And the Vav is, it's symbolic of man, if you will. It is symbolic of a nail, that which is attaching something, that which secures something. What is it attaching and what is it securing? The end of the story of Bereshit or Genesis, which when you get down to the end of that chapter, just on the previous page, we have the end of how that Joseph saw his son Ephraim's children to the 3rd generation, and also the children of Manasseh. He's taking care of his brothers, and on his dying bed, he says, Yah's going to certainly visit you, bring me up out of this land when he also brings you up. And he made them children of Israel swear, Elohim shall certainly visit you, and you shall bring up my bones from here. And he died at 110 years old. So, and, which begins now, this new book and this new chapter, tells us that this is the continuing of the story. But the situation changes. Israel goes from being a benefactor, receiving the beneficent request of Joseph in their behalf. They are beneficiaries, is what I'm trying to say. They're treated well. They're respected. The land is accepting of them. They have their own place. They're growing. They're multiplying. They have a dwelling. They have a culture that lives within a culture. All is well, even though they are in exile. They're away from their actual homeland, their actual origins, and where they belong. Now, Yah is getting ready to bring them out, but not without pressure, not without the big squeeze taking place. There is an understanding here. It says at the end of Bereshit in chapter 50, it mentions to the third generation. And then it says here in Shemot chapter number 1 that Joseph died and all his brothers and all that generation. There is a shifting taking place from one generation to the next. This is significant for us. It is a picture of how we come into another set of days, another time or another season. We look at our current generation, our current season, and we look at world events, and we think about how evil they are, how that people are more and more influential in dark things. Those in the entertainment industry and various aspects of it, they are less and less secretive about the fact that they have sold themselves to other powers to achieve what it is that they're trying to accomplish. And all their symbols and gestures and identifying marks are more and more readily seen. We have governmental oppression increasing, not just here in the United States, but the world over. There is a lot of things and indicators to point to the fact that this is becoming an increasingly evil, dark, oppressive, controlling, even demonic generation. And that is not to say that previous generations were not problematic. I just had this discussion actually in the checkout line at a grocery store just a few nights ago about the 1970s. Someone looked at me and said, "So how were the 1970s?" And I said, "They were wild. You should have been there." And I was talking to someone in their early 20s. Someone behind me, we started talking about the 1960s. They said the 1960s was fun. In a lot of ways, in my childhood, innocent of that decade, yes. But I also remember the pain and a lot of the upheaval and the college campus shootings and the riots and the drug culture and Vietnam. I remember all of those things, the assassinations that were taking place. I remember the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s. I remember, though, how that evil just morphed and shifted to do a different thing. It's not seasons that have changed. It's people. And it's not that people are different genetically or physically so much. It is the way that people respond. The barriers, the boundaries are coming down further and further until ultimately the hope among some who want to shape society is that there will be no boundaries. When we go to the book of Matthew, chapter 24, that notorious chapter, and when he was asked about what is the sign of your coming and the end of the age, that's the time that we're now living in, the first thing that Yeshua says, "Take heed no man lead you astray." He warned about deception. But, while we focus on that quite a bit, that the first thing he warned of was deception, it's that don't be gullible. Don't be taken in. Don't be careful that you're not led astray. Keep your guard and your boundary up. In 2 Timothy chapter 3, Rashi says, "Know this, in the last days hard times shall come." And he describes a very degenerate society and how it will develop. Don't be taken in by that. But there's a verse in 2 Peter chapter 2. It says in verse 9 that Yahweh knows how to rescue the reverent ones from trial and to keep the unrighteous unto the day of judgment to be punished. Yah is in the midst of sifting. from those that are attached to him and those that are attached to this present world. We'll pick up here tomorrow, and we'll talk more about this. Until then, shalom.